Hooday, Bengal fans. He is Maan. And there we are.
We're locking up. Keep on going, guys.
All right.
No,
All right, here we go. All right, let's go. This is not a good start. All right, here we go. Here we go. There we are. There we are. All right, we are live. Hooday, Bengal fans. He is Maan. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse, the heartbeat of our victorious Cincinnati Bengals. What's up, man? Timbo, how you doing, bud? Good to see you. Again, thanks to everybody for jumping on here with us live. Good talk a little Bengals Browns. Obviously, you know a game that I don't know, Mon. I guess we'll talk about it because we need to talk about it. But saw some good things today from some of the younger players. Something that Eric and I had talked about earlier in the week that we wanted to see. But Mon, overall, we got Eric too. We got Eric live at the stadium.
let's go ahead and bring him on real quick. He's walking outside. He's at Paycor right now. Let's see if we can hear Eric. If not, we'll talk to him another time.
All right, sounds good. Let's see if we can
What's up,
bring him on.
guys?
Eric, can you see us?
Got you. You got
Hello,
me?
Eric. And we locked up.
Yeah, you locked up.
Okay, guys. Jake, they can still see us. Talk to us. Hey,
All
guys.
right. Okay. So we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. Why wouldn't we on the last game of the regular season? But yeah, so we saw some younger guys do some good things today. We're going to talk about that. Obviously, now I think we might have Eric. We have Eric.
Keep on going.
You got me. You got me?
Okay. Yeah, Timbo, we'll talk a little bit about that. There we go. There's Eric live at the stadium. Eric, how you doing, bud?
Doing good. A little cold, but hey, it was worth it.
Eric, we can't hear you, buddy.
I think you're on mute, Eric.
Eric, I'm freezing up here. I'm going to take you out.
All right.
Okay.
All right. But yeah, Timbo, we'll talk about that. Why did they sit Hendrickson so early? Obviously, injury being the big thing. Maybe Hendrickson took himself out. I don't know. But we will talk about all of that and some of the milestones some of the guys met. But before we do all that, Mon, just really quick, your thoughts after the game today. Again, like I said, obviously not a lot going on with all the backups playing for the Browns. But what do you think?
Yeah, I'm glad they won. I never want the Bengals to lose. Nice debates on Twitter about the draft spots, picking 13th over 18th. Personally, some might not agree. I don't care. I want to win. Losing
Yes.
is toxic. You don't want to lose to a Browns team playing backups, and you have to go the whole off season
Yes.
losing to them.
Yes.
It's more detrimental. We're going to replenish this roster in free agency. We're going to get good draft picks. It's always good to win. We have a winning record. It's a frustrating season. We get it. We've shared our frustrations on the Bengals Pulse every week. Brighter days ahead, but some good things today. I love Yoshivas. He looked good. One thing I'm concerned about is I think the depth issue with this Cincinnati Bengals roster needs to be addressed in that second half. You know, our backups were in against theirs, and you saw a big difference. It was good, though, when our starters were in. Our starters did what they needed to do, Jake. They needed to dominate a team that wasn't playing their starters, and we did. And, hey, a win is a win. I'm happy with it, and let's keep on talking about it.
Yeah, Cornell, I agree. At least we got a divisional win. You said it. I mean, really, I know people are going to talk about, well, we should have tanked, and I'd rather have the 13th pick. Really, why would you rather have 5 picks with a team? Again, I said this earlier on in the week on our show. We have not had a great record of drafting in the first round anyways. As a coach, I will tell you I'd rather go into the offseason with momentum. Yes, the Browns played their backups, but we've lost games where we've played our backups and, there was still momentum there to be had by the other team. So we'll take the momentum. We had a lot of guys do some great things, some younger guys today that played really well. And again, being 1-5 in the division is a little bit better than being 0-6, but it is something. There is a win there. And then obviously the Browns have had our number here for the last couple years. So it's good to get a win against them. You got to win. You got to go out and try to win football games. You can't, there is no tanking. I'm just not a fan of that. I'm really not. Except I think the only time in my history, my 40-year history of being a Bengal fan, I think the only time I ever wanted that was to get Joe Burrow, and the Bengals almost screwed that up. But I think that's the only time I can ever remember rooting for the Bengals to lose a game was that Dolphins game to get Joe Burrow. But
that game was so crazy. I'm not going to lie to you. I was actually sort of rooting for the Bengals to win because it was such a bizarre game how they scored on the Hail Mary pass to was it Tyler Eifert that caught that ball, correct? And I'm glad they didn't, though, because we wouldn't have had Joe Burrow.
I mean, we scored 14 points, Maan, with like a minute something left in the game.
Yeah.
Remember, we got the onside kick, which we never do. Then we throw the Hail Mary to go into overtime, and then no one can score in overtime.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. Typical Bengal stuff. But anyway, so let's talk about the game today. You said it earlier. The Bengals starters that played, and again, we say starters like Jake Browning is a starter, but he's really not the starter. But Jake Browning, he played well today. 18-24 for 156. He had 3 touchdowns, had the 1 interception, was sacked twice. Joe Mixon had a great game today, and I think that is something positive to go into the offseason with. He hits that milestone of getting 1,000 yards for the season. He ends up taking second place solely for rushing touchdowns for this organization. At 49. He jumped Rudy today. So that's something, too. That's a very positive thing for Joe Mixon. He had 14 carries, 111 yards, and he gets his first 100-yard rushing game of the season with a long of 45. Chase Brown has 9 for 41. And Charlie Jones, Chucky Sizzle, the one guy that I talked about this week, I wanted to see some stuff from him. He had a couple nice little speed sweeps there. I think he had 2 carries for 13 yards. He's also the leading receiver today, 3 receptions for 49 yards. So, again, we saw some good things there from some of these young guys. Yoshi, I guess all he does is catch touchdowns. He gets 2 more touchdowns today, 5 receptions for 36 yards. And Jamar Chase, Maan, gets his 4 receptions that he needs to get that 100 reception mark. So offensively, we did see a lot of good things. The one thing, again, Tyler Boyd goes over 6,000 career yards with his 4-yard catch. Although another big drop by Tyler Boyd, something that we've seen a lot of this year that we're not used to seeing. Tyler Boyd really struggled this year with some big drops. He had another big drop today. But Maan, let's talk offensive first. How did the offense look to you today, again, against a Browns team that had, a handful of starters out on defense?
It was good to see. I'm just looking at the rush stats, 28 rushes for 181. It was against the backups. I'm trying to be a little measured here. I would like to see those stats, earlier in the season. That's Joe Mixon's first 100-yard game of the year. A win's a win. I'm happy, but it was against backups. It should have been this way. It should have been 31-0 at halftime, and it was 24-0 at halftime, correct?
Yes,
if I'm not mistaken.
24-0.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with the win. It was good to see Yoshi Voss. I thought Charlie Jones looked really good today. Chase Brown, electrifying. Bright future there. We got some really good skill players. Joseph Ossai was very active today. First time all season. He was really active.
Yes.
That's on defense.
Point.
I know we're talking about offense right now. It was fun. It was good to see. It's always good to have a Bengal win. But at the same time, I'm a little reserved. I'm realistic. I know who they were playing against. Little concern though, Jake. I think in the second half we really started substituting players. 3 new offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Things slowed down on offense quite a bit. Backup versus backup. We have got to improve our roster depth on both sides of the ball. That has to be priority one on this offseason.
I agree. I think it was very telling once the Bengals started taking their starters out, the huge drop off. And I will say this against the Browns, saying this in terms of the Browns sitting a bunch of players, you don't have the number 1 ranked defense when you don't have good guys, depth wise.
Right.
So, it's not like the Browns are playing a bunch of scrubs out there either.
They had key contributors playing.
They did. I think, but you're right. I mean, the Bengals, you guys can see the reason why Maan and I talk so much about fixing the trenches, right? The offensive line and the deep. Thank you. Yes, trench work. Curtis, you're exactly right. That's where you went. And you could see the difference today, right? You could see the difference today. The Bengals offense, when they're able to run the football, they looked completely different today, Mon. And you said it, 28 rushes for 181 total yards. Again, yes, it's against some backup guys and the Browns depth chart was, we were probably second tier guys. But again, those aren't scrubs. They're good players. And, the Bengals were able to run the football today, and that makes a huge difference. And you can see, again, that's why it's so important to make sure that you have those trenches. Defensively, Mana, I'll tell you, for me, Jordan Battle, man, he really stuck out today.
Yes.
All over the field, gets his first career interception, has a sack. But more than those 2 plays, he just was all over the place today. And I think that's a really good sign. He has to be up there in tackles. He had 4 total tackles, again, a sack, 2 tackles for loss. Logan Wilson gets his 11th career interception. Mon, I think I saw a stat since 2020, linebackers interception-wise, Logan Wilson is number 1 since 2020 with 11. And I think the next closest guy is Warner from the 49ers at 7. So Logan Wilson showing off his safety skills once again. Dax Hill and Logan Wilson both with 5 tackles. BJ Hill and Trey Hendrickson, they split a sack. Trey does not get the sack leadership for the season. He finishes with 17 and a half, just below TJ Watt with 19. But again, a solid season for Trey. And I think some Bengal fans, we've already had a couple of our listeners post on here, why did they pull Trey? We don't know if they pulled Trey or if Trey pulled himself. You don't know what that conversation's like, but you made a great point, Mon, when you and I were watching the game today together. You looked at me and said, don't forget, training camp's in 12 weeks.
Oh, OTAs.
OTAs, but that's the start of training camp. Yeah. That's when we start seeing these guys get together, and you don't want those guys banged up going into the OTAs and training camp, right?
You don't want any of those guys having any type of significant surgery, because OTAs are 12, 14, 16 weeks from now. That's right around the corner. Jordan Battle belongs. He's going to have a bright future for the Cincinnati Bengals. I'll tell you, Dax Hill and DJ Turner had a perfect opportunity for an interception on the first touchdown pass.
Yeah, it was rough.
By the Browns. I don't know what it is about those two. They played together at Michigan. They played in the same defensive backfield, but they do a good job of banging into each other. That keeps them from making a play. Against the Steelers,
yes,
if Dax Hill, if he didn't take out his own player, DJ Turner, they would have tackled the wide receiver for the Steelers. Instead, it's a 70-yard touchdown pass or 80-yard touchdown pass. And this play here, Turner was in perfect position to make that play, and then it seemed like DJ Hill got his hand in there, sort of messed things up. I think those guys have a bright future. Very uneven season for both, because they had their moments. They made some good plays, but the last few weeks they've struggled. There's too much talent there. I still believe in them, but we need a veteran safety to come in. and solidify that back end. Somebody sent a message here. I'm going to find it and post it. That's what we need. We need a vet safety to help out.
Yeah, I agree. Sam Hubbard also gets a sack today, and again, Sam Hubbard realized, guys, he's been playing hurt for weeks with a high ankle sprain. Those are tough. He's actually getting surgery on Tuesday. So Sam Hubbard playing through injury for this Bengals team. That's what we expect from him because that's the kind of guy he is. He's tough. He's a captain, but he has been injured, and I think maybe we've seen that these last handful of weeks with really the quarterback pressure really not being there. I think, and Joseph Ossai today, right? Joseph Ossai, we talk about where's Joseph Ossai. He shows up today and has some good looking plays out there. But again, something consistently that we're not seeing week in and week out from some of these guys, right? And you talked about Dax Hill and DJ Turner. I love those guys. I think they're going to be great pieces for this Bengals defensive puzzle. But when we're talking about starters in this league, I'm not sure we're there yet, right? I mean, you look at those guys, if they were depth pieces, that would be one thing. But like you said, and I think one of our listeners posted on here, we need a veteran safety. So Vonn, if you're out there, please, Vonn, come back. Come back to the Bengals. Because again, I think that was a big. We've talked about it. I feel like we just keep going round and round with this, but losing Vonn Bell to me was even more deficient than losing Jesse Bates because Vonn Bell was really the quarterback of the back end of that defense, and we've seen it struggle all year long without Vonn Bell.
Thanks, Tom. We appreciate that. Listen, Vonn Bell being back there. Jake, let me ask you a question. If Vonn Bell was on the team, do you think the Bengals could win maybe 2-3 more games?
Yeah, I really do. I mean, I think me, Maan. I am all I talk about is the explosive plays we give up every single week. We gave up another one today, but I do. I think if you take away half of the chunk plays of the explosive plays that this Bengals defense has given up, I think this whole season looks completely different. Do you not agree?
Yeah, I do. I think Bengal fans, we both knew, a lot of fans on Twitter, a lot of our followers, we knew Bates and Bell not being on the roster was going to be an issue. We understood that, but I didn't expect it to be at this magnitude.
Right.
I think Dax Hill and DJ Turner are probably the two most athletic players on our roster. 4.3 speed, super athletic. They just need more seasoning. I really think they're going to be solid players, but it would have been great to have Bell there. I think Bates we knew was going to be gone. I think the Bell signing with Carolina really caught the Bengals off guard. I really thought that, hey man, we got this guy, and it didn't work out, and I wish it would have, because I think it would have made a difference. Maybe 1 or 2 games, and maybe we're still playing, but that's a lot of what ifs. And I don't know. It's going to be a long off season, but it's going to be an interesting off season. We talked about it. I think it's the most important off season in franchise history.
Yes.
And every decision they make. You said this last year during the draft. We don't need projects. We need people to come in and produce immediately. Well, guess what? I'm on the wagon this year. Every free agent we sign, I'm talking a multi-year deal, not a lower-end free agent. Every free agent we sign, 2-3-year deal. Every draft pick, first, second, or third round, they have to be immediate contributors, immediate players that contribute immediately. I don't want a guy that we're trying to project 2 or 3 years down the road. We need players immediately. They're going to help this team.
I agree. Houday, Chris. And again, thanks everybody for jumping on. We really appreciate it. Tom, yes, we will be on every week for sure. We appreciate the kind words. Maan and I we are on year round every week. So we will continue. We will not be on obviously after Bengal games, unfortunately, anymore for the season, but we will be on live every week with you guys talking Bengals football. Listen, this is going to be we were talking about it watching the game. This is going to be a fun off season. It really is. I mean, just to kind of put everything in perspective, Maan, because you and I talked about this before off air and while we were watching the game, but the Bengals right now are sitting at about 68 million, right? 68 million. They're in very good shape with the cap. You look at some of these other teams, it's insane. The Cleveland Browns, for instance, are 40 over, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're in dire need. They're in a win right now because they are in serious cap trouble. The Bengals sitting at 68 on the positive side is a good spot for this Bengals team to be. And we were looking at today during the game, defensive line wise and where we need to throw some of this money at. But you have some of the numbers right here.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. The Bengals are at 68 million in available cap space,
Which is really like top five, right?
According to Over the Cap, yes.
Yeah.
And of course, they could add another 10 to 12 easily with some roster tweaking here and there. But some teams are in cap hell. They really are. The Steelers are 6 million over.
And which is crazy,
It
right?
is. The Browns are 12 million over. I was wrong when I told you 40. The Cowboys are 16. The Broncos are 18. The Dolphins are 40 million over the cap.
Look at the Bills.
The Chargers are 42. The Bills are 43, and the Saints are 87. Looking into this, I was bored the other day. Some of these teams, they can't cut players because the cap hit is so bad. It doesn't really give them relief. They have to do some major renegotiating to try to get these contracts in place. If you get a chance, guys, listen to Dan Horde's podcast, the recent one that was previewing the Browns game. Listen to the Grossi is his name. He's the reporter that covers the Browns. He was talking about this matchup that we just watched. He also mentioned about the salary cap issues with the Cleveland Browns. Listen to that and understand the roster dynamics they're going to be facing the next 2 or 3 years. Luckily, the Bengals aren't managed that way. And so that's going to be interesting to see over the next couple of years. So try to listen to that. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, their quarterback situation has put them in cap hell,
Yes,
right? I mean, that's the worst contract in NFL history with Deshaun Watson. There's no doubt about it. Giving that guy all that guaranteed money is just insane. But when we talk about the Bengals and where we are cap-wise, Maan, I kind of want to get an idea from you because you look at this team and we can officially say now the off season has started, right? We can say that officially. So now we look at this team and we look at where they are free agent wise. Okay. So we look at guys like Tyler Boyd, DJ Reader, who is coming off of both quads being torn. So some injury situation there with DJ Reader. You look at guys like Cheeto, who did not play today. Obviously, we look at Tee Higgins and his contract situation. Maan, out of all of the free agents that we have right now, before we even get into the offseason stuff, who out of all those guys do you definitely want to see back in stripes?
Well, I think Tee Higgins is definitely going to be here. They're going to use the tag on him. So that's 68 million that we have, 23, roughly 22, 23 million is going to come off of that because that's what the cap is for, or that's what the franchise tag is for wide receivers.
Right.
So that's going to limit our spending a little bit. Obviously, DJ Reader, you want DJ Reader back. I want DJ Reader back. We've both said that he's the quarterback of our defense. He's coming off 2 quad injuries. Those are pretty serious injuries. Hopefully he's healthy and can come back, maybe a 1-year deal to see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. They're going to have to see his health, but Cincinnati keeps 10 defensive linemen. And to me, this is a trenches off season. They have to address that in free agency. You just can't go in to next year with a couple rookies you get off of in the draft. Look what happened this year. They went all in on Zach Carter.
Yep.
Zach Carter was going to be their key reserve. I'm still hoping he can develop. It didn't materialize. It did not happen. We have to get at least 2 veteran defensive tackles. Maybe one of those is DJ Reader, but we have to, we need more bodies there. Higgins, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think he's going to be a Bengal next year. Hopefully they can work something out, lower that cap number, get him on a long-term extension. Who else is free agents that you mentioned?
So Tyler Boyd, Cheeto Awuzie are 2 that come to mind right away for me. Some of the other guys, I think, like an Irv Smith, who was a healthy scratch again, he's gone. I mean, we know he's not coming back. So I'm just throwing out names of guys that that I see the Bengals going after and trying to what is that, Andrew?
Oh my God, that's crazy. That's amazing. That's astronomical.
That's crazy.
No, it's
Thank you, Andrew, for that. That's good stuff.
It's going to be interesting to monitor, especially with our cornerback situation. I know we have a lot of young players back there. We have 6 out of 10 defensive backs that are either rookies or second-year players. I know we're very young back there. This is a hot take of mine. I know the season just ended, and we got weeks before the draft comes. We're going to talk and have mock drafts. If a cornerback, an elite cornerback's there in the first round, don't be surprised if the Bengals jump at it, because you can never have enough. We don't know what's going to happen with Cheeto. You saw what happened right here with Sidney Jones. I don't think he's the answer. We need another player. We need more bodies back there.
Yeah,
we got a lot of time to talk about it, but cornerback always a premium position. And again, somebody said it earlier: trenches, Else Curtis, trenches all the way. We have got to get better in the trenches, guys. It's a must.
Yeah, KP, I love Sweat from Texas. I'm not sure he's going to be there at 18. He is a beast. I think he is a perfect fit for this Bengals defense. I'm just not so sure he'll be there, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be. We really enjoy doing the draft stuff. So
my dog agrees. My dog
agrees. We'll be on here doing all that draft stuff with you guys as well. But yeah, I think this offseason is going to be important. And like you said, Maan, is you look at these other teams, and when they build their trenches, they do it by getting these free agent guys that are, I don't want to say second tier guys, but guys that have experience, can come in, can give you, like a Larry Ogunjobi when we signed him. That was a great signing. He was a second tier free agent guy that came in and played really well for us. Those are the kind of guys that you need. Obviously, I would love a Chris Jones. Right now we have the top, what is that? The top 2024 NFL free agents.
I'm going to name a couple of them. Just, okay. We're jumping ahead here. This is, obviously there's Chris Jones.
Can you imagine getting Chris Jones?
Josh Allen, edge rusher. You can never have enough edge rushers.
Yeah.
We were talking about this in text the other day. Trey Hendrickson has been our pass rush only. I mean, did he get 18 sacks or 17 and a half?
17 and a half.
Yeah, he's been the key. Number 4 on Pro Football Focus's top 100 free agents is, of course, our Tee Higgins. That's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Let me ask you a question, Jake.
Mm-hmm.
We tag him. We control him for 1 year.
Yeah.
What if a team comes up and says, we'll give you a 1 and a 3 for him? Would you consider it?
I know. I'm glad I don't have to make that decision. That's a tough one for me because, listen, I'm all about getting draft capital. I'm all about that. I don't want you to think that I'm not, Maan. I know when we talk about these things, I'm always like, no, we're not trading. But I don't know if I've seen enough from Yoshi and those guys where I feel comfortable with saying I could see Tee Higgins being traded. Tee Higgins, when healthy, Maan, is such a huge part of this offense, and there's a comfortability there with him and Joe Burrow. I'm not ready to see T go yet. I wish I would have seen more from Yoshi and Charlie Jones, but I really haven't seen that this year. So to answer your question, I say no. I say you hang on to Tee Higgins and we make another run for a Super Bowl, because and I say this because I just have not seen enough from those other guys yet to feel comfortable with the Tee Higgins thing. Andrew says a Bengals cap space at 70,000. So yeah,
70 million.
70 million. That's 70,000.
We're in trouble.
We're in real trouble with 70,000.
Yeah, I
70
agree.
million.
Yeah.
70 million. Thank you, Andrew, for that stat as well. I do think we only have 1 year left with T. And I know it's nice to get some draft capital, but I just wish I would have seen more from some of the young guys. What do you
Yeah.
think? You taking 1 to 3?
I would be tempted to, but
I
I
would
think
too.
T, when T is dialed in, is unblocked and uncoverable.
Yeah, he is.
Him and Chase together, and if you get a really competent third receiver, I think Yoshi and Jones could develop into that. I want him to stay with the Bengals, and hopefully they can work a long-term deal out. A lot of people out there are like, "Oh, there's no way they can do that." There is multiple ways they can do it. I want T to stay. I want him to stay on the team, but 1 and 3, they will think about it. One other thing, real quick, you mentioned something to me. You said you're listening to the pregame show with Dave Lapham,
Yes.
and you mentioned something about Jonah Williams. That's going to be interesting.
Dave
also,
Lapham's very big on Jonah Williams.
Well, I want everybody that knows me on Twitter and on the Bengals Pulse, I've been very critical of Jonah Williams. I got to give him credit. He played really well this year, and I'll be the first to admit that take of mine was not. I'm glad I was wrong. Let's put it that way. He played really well. He solidified the right tackle spot. He was still playing late in the third and fourth quarter, so I don't know what that means, but his I guess you saw that on the news when they asked him. The reporter did. He didn't sound like he wanted to stay in Cincinnati.
Yeah,
that's going to be a fluid situation. But I want to say one thing: Pro Football Focus has him the 54th rated free agent prospect in this draft, in this free agency class. That's pretty good. There's 4 other tackles rated ahead of him. All right. I'm not trying to throw shade on him or anything like that. If the Bengals cannot keep him, there's other options in free agency that we can get. Trent Brown from New England. And this draft is loaded with tackles also. So that's going to be something to monitor. I think the Bengals will attempt to re-sign him. I just don't think he's going to come back.
Well, I think Jonah, I just don't see Jonah being a priority. I just don't see it. I don't see where you would set him as a priority. I don't think he's played well enough to be a priority this offseason. I'm not saying not to try to bring him back, but I just don't think he is a priority. I think Tee Higgins is your priority in making sure that situation is taken care of. I think your priority is going out and finding a defensive tackle that can put pressure on the quarterback, where you can get some kind of pressure from that interior of the defensive line. I think that is a priority. I don't think Jonah Williams has played well enough to be a priority. I understand the flexibility with left tackle and right tackle. I get that. That part I do get. But is he a right tackle where the Bengals are going to put themselves in a situation where they can't go out and get a really good veteran defensive tackle? I don't think Jonah Williams is a priority. I don't. I have a hard time agreeing with that, Mom.
Well, I think right tackle, the position itself, is a priority.
I do too.
I think that's a very important spot. And, he did play well there. He really did. And all I'm saying is you have to his comments. I don't think he wants to be in Cincinnati. He wants to be a left tackle. Being a left tackle is not going to happen in Cincinnati. And so I just don't think it's going to happen. And we'll see with that. I think the Bengals will attempt to potentially get more. Trying to figure out, we're having a computer issue here. I think the Bengals will make him an offer, and I would be surprised if he remains a Bengal. Would I be upset? No, I won't be upset.
Yeah.
But I would be surprised. Trent Brown, there's a lot of good players out there that could potentially come in. I do not want the Bengals to rely on a rookie right tackle to protect Joe Burrow. If we have to bring in somebody for 2 years, 3 years as a bridge, so be it. Or if you get a top 15 type talent that could come in and play, by all means do it. But a lot of evaluation to go on the next few weeks. We'll see what happens. And of course, Bengal fans, we love wide receivers and skill players. The Bengals are always going to provide Joe Burrow with that. So maybe they'll get that tight end they want. Everybody talks about the kid from Georgia.
And look, Gatekeepers here talking about Kappa, a guy you talk quite a bit about with me, and his decline. You're 100% right, Gatekeeper. That's a great comment there, because he has declined, right, Maan?
I think he's regressed. I think he had an off year, and I think the Bengals can get better on the interior offensive line. Karras has played fine. Kappa had his moments, but he really regressed to me. I think Volson sort of improved over the second half of the season, but we have to get better play there. And, we talked about the stats today. It was 188 rushing yards. And are the Bengals going to get 188 every game? Absolutely not. But I would like to see a little bit more of that next year. It has to be.
Yeah.
And for Joe Burrow's sake, we were talking a lot before during the game. I'm just tired of Bengal fans saying this on Twitter. Well, all we need is a healthy Joe Burrow. Fair. That's fair. Joe Burrow is so important to this team. If Joe Burrow was healthy, we'd probably make the playoffs. But guess what? He wasn't. And our problems are bigger than Joe Burrow. All right, we need a healthy Joe Burrow, but we need a better roster. He doesn't need to be Superman every single game. Let's get him a better offensive line. Let's get him a better defense. Let's get him a tight end that's a stud.
Yeah.
All right, and we'll see where this offense goes.
Well, let me before we get out of here, let me throw some names at you real quick, and you tell me Bengal or not. Okay.
Okay.
Here we go. Ready? This is for next year. Bengal or not. Tyler Boyd.
No.
Okay. Cheeto Awuzie.
Yes.
Okay. DJ Reader.
I'm going to say no.
Jonah Williams.
No.
Tee Higgins.
Yes.
Irv Smith. No, I'm joking. Okay. I think.
Well, what's your answers?
I think that's interesting. That you think Cheeto would be a guy that the Bengals would bring back. I think that's interesting. So you think there's a better chance of Cheeto coming back than DJ Reader?
I think Cheeto will come back. He'll be cheaper. He'll be the veteran addition, and I think they'll draft another cornerback in the first 3 rounds. I think the Cincinnati Bengals will draft a cornerback in the first 3 rounds for the next 10 years. That's just the way the NFL is now. Pass, pass, pass. You need cornerbacks. DJ Reader is the quarterback of our defense. I want him back. I want him back so bad. And I don't want our fans to think I'm down on DJ. 2 serious knee injuries. Joe Goodberry tweeted something out last week. Every game that he's played as been on the roster, he's only played 40% of the snaps. He's only been available 40% of the snaps. That's $20 million for a guy that plays 40% of the snaps. That's injuries, and of course, they take him out on pass downs and everything. I get that. He's had 2 significant injuries, but when he plays, he's the best at his position. It's not even close.
Yeah.
And if he comes back, trust me, I'm not going to be sad about it, but I just don't think they will. I think they'll allocate that money towards maybe a younger player, maybe a Chris Jones. That would be something.
So Anton says DJ Reader and Cheeto both make it back. Interesting. What you guys go ahead and make sure you comment on here. Let us know what you think. I'm going to say with that list, I'm going to say I like Gatekeeper's question too. We'll get to that. Let me say mine real quick.
Okay,
we'll get to Gatekeepers. I'm going to say Tee Higgins is back for sure.
Okay.
I'm going to say DJ Reader is back.
Guys, I'm doing this so you can see the sign. Continue. Okay.
I'm going to say DJ Reader back for sure. I'm going to say Tee Higgins back for sure. And I'm going to say that there's a good chance that Cheeto is back. But I'm kind of 50-50 on the Cheeto thing. I think DJ Reader and Tee Higgins are back 100%. I think they are back and they are Bengals. I think DJ probably on a better contract, a little bit more friendly contract for the Bengals. And I think Tee Higgins will be tagged. All right, let's get to Gatekeepers because this is a great question.
It is a great question. Just to piggyback on what you said. Oh, that's a wrong one here. Where did it go? Okay. We have a depth issue, and we need to fix that. Okay.
Yes. So Gatekeepers here says, what about Callahan? I'm going to let you answer this because we talked about this while we were watching the game, which is really funny. This is a great question, Gatekeepers. Maan, what do you think? Is Callahan gone?
I don't think Callahan will be gone, especially with the NFL Players Association. They had that survey from players, and they had him as the 4th best offensive coordinator in the NFL, or that's how the players rated him. I think he's going to stick with the team unless he gets a head coaching job. I will say this: I don't want to lose Dan Pitcher. I think Dan Pitcher could potentially be gone or get picked up by another team. I think he's so important to this team.
I do too.
Sort of if Callahan goes, pitcher just moves right in.
I agree.
One of those situations. I do expect some turnover on this coaching staff, and I think the big one's going to be offensive line. The Bengals have invested so much money in this offensive line, top 10 paid unit. They haven't got top 10 paid results. Do you think they have with the offensive line? I don't think they have. And I
mean,
think,
Maan, we talk about this every week. We're one of the worst rushing teams in the NFL, and the offensive line coach
is the run game coordinator.
Is a run game coordinator. Yeah. And again, why is that the situation, and how much leeway does he have? We don't know that, but I do think there is going to be repercussions somewhere for how poor this run game has been. And I would say he would be the obvious choice, unfortunately for him. As far as Callahan goes, I think it's going to actually be a very interesting situation when you have a guy like Dan Pitcher, who we all know as Bengal fans is Joe Burrow's guy. Right. I mean, Dan Pitcher is Joe Burrow's guy. So I feel like if Dan Pitcher, if there's any kind of I don't know, an idea that he might get a situation somewhere else, I could see the Bengals going a different direction and going with Dan Pitcher. Let me ask you this. I think this is the real question.
Jake Browning's girlfriend was the winner of the game.
Yeah, that was great too. The camera, I think eventually they told the camera guy, like, look, dude, stay out of the box.
I know they stopped showing.
Yeah, they stopped showing. But let's get back on track. But yeah, that's good. This is the real question, I think. Is Zac Taylor the offensive coordinator next year? Is there a change there? No,
absolutely not.
Interesting.
No, I think he is the guy, and I don't see any change there at all. But
and James here has asked you, Mixon is staying. What about Jonah Williams? Will he be back? And what do you think about the running back room?
I don't think so. I think the Cincinnati Bengals are going to draft one, maybe two running backs. I think there's going to be an overhaul at that position. And Joe Mixon had 1,000 yards. I'm team Mixon. I like Joe Mixon. I think he's been the least of our worries this year. I don't think he's guaranteed a spot. I really don't. And, listen, Joe Mixon could wind up going to San Francisco or somewhere and just blow it up. And by no means, don't interpret that like I don't want Mixon on the team. I do. But it's going to be a fluid off season. There's going to be a lot of changes. When Joe Burrow was injured, we said that this could be a blessing in disguise. And I think this coaching staff, everybody, whoever remains, is going to try to find a way to diversify, maybe change some things up. And I think we're going to run more efficiently next year.
Well, I think I disagree with the Joe Mixon. I think Joe Mixon is a Bengal 100% next year. Chase Brown is a lock. I think he has shown his worth. But I do think, Chris Evans, a guy that we just really don't know what happened to him. I guess he's hanging out with Irv Smith somewhere. But I do think the running back room will look a little bit different for sure. James wants to know too, what about a new punter?
Robbins is a friend of the show. He was very uneven this year. He had some struggles. When you invest a draft pick on a kicker or a punter, you're going to be given a couple years. And I think there'll be a vet in training camp, and the best kicker wins. I think that's what's going to happen. He'll be in training camp next year. I think he's going to learn from this uneven year, and hopefully he gets better. If not, there'll be a new kicker next year.
I don't think we're, and I'm not just saying this because Brad's a friend of the show. I don't think we're in any situation where it's like, he's a rookie punter. You know what I mean? I don't think there's any situation I could see the Bengals just getting rid of him. I mean, you said it earlier. They used a draft pick on him for a reason, and just like a lot of rookies struggle.
Yeah.
Brad had a rough year. There's no doubt about that. I'm not denying the struggles this year, but he is a rookie, and I think there is an adjustment period.
And Jake, there's some unhidden things. If we've watched every game, every snap this year, there's been at least 4 or 5 times where the long snappers had a horrible snap, and Robbins bailed him out, getting the ball down for field goals, extra points. Those are little hidden things that we don't talk about.
That's right.
And he was really good at that. I know, like, oh, you're really reaching, Maan, talking about snapping for
no, that's important.
Extra, but it is huge. I mean, he had a couple key ones. I'm like, wow, I'm glad he did that. And listen, they're going to give him another training camp. And if it doesn't work out, I guarantee you they'll have another punter. It might be Chrisman again. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, maybe they bring in Chrisman to battle it out for that job. But I think Brad is definitely at OTAs. I think he's definitely in training camp, and I think he's going to give it an opportunity to win that job. Again, he is a rookie, and I understand the inconsistency and stuff, but I don't think the Bengals will be ready to move away from him yet. And I want to talk about this really quick too, because this is a good. I do think it would be huge for Callahan to get an offer somewhere, because I do think there needs to be some kind of a change in this offensive room, not just at the offensive line coaching position, but there does need to be a change, right? I mean, we need some kind of creativity in this offense.
He's obviously very well respected. When the Bengals are fully loaded, no injuries, Joe Burrow, the offense is clicking, and you got to give Callahan a lot of credit for it. But he had a couple job interviews last year. This survey we were talking about, he's going to get some interviews, and he could easily get a job somewhere. We'll see how it shakes out. There is going to be some coaching staff turnover, and I think the big one's offensive line. We get frustrated with the offensive line. The Cincinnati Bengals aren't going to bring in 5 new starters next year. We know that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So a new coach comes in, new technique, new motivational styles. Maybe that's going to, flip the switch a little bit and make them just that little bit better. I think the offensive line last year, the only difference was Lael Collins was right tackle. Remember that 8-game stretch? Jake, they were dominant. They were dominant. That was a great offensive line. Yep. The talent is there. And let's hope they get it back and play better next year.
Well, we have a lot of time to talk about all of this. Again, unfortunately, the Bengals season has ended at 9-8, which is very significant, Mom, because it's the first time, I think Jay Morrison tweeted this, it's the first time since 1935, 1935, that every team in a division had a winning record. That's amazing. It's amazing how good the AFC North is. Look what it did to Jacksonville. 3 games in a row. Jacksonville was 8-3, I think, right? At the time, they were 8-3, and they were playing for the 1 seed when we played them. We beat them. Maybe Cleveland beat them. Then maybe Baltimore beat them or something. I don't know, but they went 1-5 to finish the season. Jacksonville is out now. So you have the Steelers, the Browns, the Ravens from the AFC North all in the playoffs. It's going to be interesting how this whole playoff situation shakes out. Maan and I will be here with you guys next week talking Bengals, maybe talking a little playoff football as well. But yes, we will be here with you guys every week. Maan and I, we don't take any time off. We love what we do. We love talking to you guys every week. Thank you guys so much for coming on here every week with us. It was a tough year, not what we expected, but there's no doubt this Bengals team is going to bounce back. They are loaded still.
Yeah, I think our off-season schedule, we're going to go down to 1 show a week, but I think we plan on Wednesdays and maybe Mondays on occasion. I think Wednesday's our night. I won't be here this Wednesday, but Jake and Eric will fill in, and I'll try to pop in if I can. I got to work. But thank you guys so much. It's been a fun year, and like Jake said, it's going to be a fun off season.
Absolutely. All right, guys, if you like this podcast, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Make sure you check us out on all the awesome podcast platforms, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify. Make sure if you go on there and you like us, make sure you give us that 5-star review. We very much appreciate that. Follow Maan on Twitter at @TheFireMaan. Follow me on Twitter at Coach Jake Owens 9. Follow Eric on Twitter at eFlash with 2 H's 88 on Twitter. Follow the Wincinnati Podcast Network on Twitter at Wincinnati Pod. And as always, follow the Bengals Pulse on Twitter at Bengals_Pulse9 on Instagram. The same without the at. Bengals_Pulse9. And as always, check out all the awesome podcasts right here on the Wincinnati Podcast Network. Guys, make sure you tune in next week to the Bengals Pulse. Again, we'll be talking a lot of Bengals, taking a lot of questions. So make sure you bring on some more great questions. We love the questions you guys give us. He is Maan. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse. Hoo day, Bengal fans. We will see you next week.
See you guys.